When did I fall in love with the garden? That's a really good question. My garden story sort of sounds a little bit like the New Orleans gardener, Miss T-Nog. And Miss Linda over there, she asked the question, when did you fall in love with the garden? Well, I worked overseas for a really long time, and I'm gonna tell you, some of the places where I worked at were very desolate and void of greenage. That's the honest truth. And whenever I would go on R&R, I would be like, oh, it smells so good here in the States. Like, you can smell the green. It was very nice. When I finally returned back to the States, because I did that for a few years, I went to visit Bobby in California. And that's my sister cousin, in case you all don't know it. They had a really big garden there. And I kind of fell in love with their garden. But of course, I stayed all the way in Florida. So that's a really long ways from California. So when I get back to Florida, I decided to start a little garden. And when I say little, I mean little. It was, I think, like 2 5-gallon buckets and a little container. I quickly got overrun by the tomato hornworm, and I shut the garden down. And once I shut the garden down, I didn't even think about gardening for a really long time. Sometimes you just have to have a nudge, and other people just have to inspire you. You know when you're ready. So once the tomato hornworms came and decimated my tomatoes and I shut everything down, I didn't garden for quite a few years. And then I met my friend Sherry that lives up in Jacksonville, and when I saw her little garden, it got me excited about wanting to garden again. But I was one of those baby gardeners, or at the time I wasn't a baby gardener just yet, and I didn't know how to start. So once Bobby came here to visit me, she said, let's go. Right now we're going to the store and we're gonna get some things for you to start. She even went on Amazon and ordered some neem oil and some BT, because she said, you're gonna need these. And we put the garden together. We put the garden in place together. I have to say, she probably did most of the work. But once she went back home, it was up to me to keep the babies alive. And that's when I think I really found out how much I enjoy the garden. I like the peacefulness of the garden, even though I have a really loud air conditioner out here. It's still quite peaceful. I enjoy I feel like my time in the garden is a time when I could meditate. So I think I fell in love with the garden about 3 years ago when Bobby, when she introduced me to the garden, it was all over with. And I was off and running. When I figured out that I had a green thumb and I could keep my plants alive and they would provide me with food, I think that's when I fell in love with my garden. And now every time I see a little bump in the soil, or a little leaf come out, or a flower bloom, I fall in love with the garden all over. So that's my story for how I fell in love with my garden. What about you? When did you fall in love with your garden? Because if you have one, you're probably in love with it like me.